So here we are on this yacht. Cindy has been pulled into this room by this young lady by the name of Nicole. One of the gentlemen had told Nicole to take Cindy and get her dressed. And Cindy is standing there, and while Nicole is undressing her, there is so much going through her mind. She's confused, she's panicked, there's just a lot going through her mind. She's feeling vulnerable, fragile. And Nicole is trying her best to be gentle with Cindy. But at the same time, Nicole knows what this is about. Nicole's one of these young ladies who's been trafficked. So she knows the only way to survive any of this is to do what you're told and do it immediately. And so she's undressing Cindy, and Cindy stops her and starts frantically looking for her phone. Nicole tells her, there's no use. They've taken your phone. They've taken your belongings. Please just come. Let's do this. You don't want to upset these men. You don't want to upset these people. And Cindy is standing there, and at this point, she just starts crying. Now, Nicole says to her, listen, I know you're feeling. I know how you're feeling. She really does know how she's feeling. And she says to her, here's some rules, just some pointers. It doesn't matter how much you don't want to do something or how much you don't like it. Try not to show it on your face. Speak when you're spoken to, and if you can help it, just keep your head down. And eventually, Cindy gets dressed and she goes up deck with Nicole. She stands there watching these men living this very gluttonous life. She stands there watching them just behaving as if any of this is normal. Nicole goes back to massaging these men and preparing some food for them. And one of them says to Cindy, he commands her, come here. And she's hesitant. And he says to Nicole, and Nicole's like, come, Cindy. And Cindy goes, and he tells her, wash my feet. And so she starts washing his feet, and now she's got tears in her eyes. It's dawning on her what has happened. It's dawning on her that Luke and his family have left her here. They've left her here to these people. Initially, when all of this had happened, she was trying so hard to explain this away, but the situation is becoming clearer and clearer. The situation is what she thinks it is. And so now in her mind, the night before, the day before is racing, like when, how, why, like how did this even happen? How did I allow this to happen to myself? So she's washing this man's feet, and she's got tears in her eyes, and she's thinking about it. And Nicole's just looking at her, trying to, show her like, you need to stop, just wash these feet, do as you're told. As time goes on, later on that afternoon, one of the men says to Cindy, get up, let's go to the room, let's go to a place somewhere more private. And Cindy really doesn't want to go. She really doesn't want to go. And Nicole is looking at her like, just go. And as much as she wants Cindy to do what Cindy has been told, she wants that for her because she doesn't want Cindy to get in trouble. She's been here before. She knows what this is about. She knows how scary it is. She knows how scared Cindy is. So the gentleman says to Nicole, fetch your friend and let's go to the room. And Nicole takes Cindy by the arm and she's like, we have to go. Just come with me to the room. And they spend a very long time in that room together. Now we're back in SA, and Cindy's mother, Mrs. Dlamini, hasn't heard from her daughter in a minute. It's been about 2 days, and she knows her daughter. They're very, very close. She knows her daughter. She knows that this is just not like Cindy. By now, she would have received a video call, some text, like what is going on? So she keeps calling Cindy's phone. There's no answer. Her phone is off. And she's like, this is not my daughter. Phone's off. No. She picks up the phone and she calls Luke. Now, when Luke answers the phone, he's very calm and confident, and he's acting as if there is absolutely nothing wrong. He picks up the phone. Hey, Mrs. D, how are you? And she's like, I'm fine, Luke. Can I please speak to Cindy? And he very quickly tells her, well, Cindy and I kind of split up at my family's all-white party on the yacht. I'm sure she told you we were going on a yacht. Yeah, we split up and I haven't really seen her since. And I just wanted to give her a bit of space because I think I'd upset her. And Cindy's mother, Mrs. Dlamini, is like, what do you mean you split up? Where is she? And he says, well, I don't know. I've been trying to locate her. I've been looking for her. And she asks, what do you mean you've been looking for her? Like, what is going on? And he says, well, look, yeah, we split up. And you know how you ladies are. You just have to give you some space and let you get your minds right. But if Cindy calls you Mrs. D, please just let her know that I'm looking for her and I'm really sorry. And Mrs. Dlamini is like, hold on, wait. Luke, it's been 2 days and you have not seen my daughter. How, why, what is going on here? Have you gone back to the harbor to check if she's there? Have you gone and have you looked around? Have you called? Have you, what are you saying to me? What is this about? And he's like, yeah, well, we went back to check. I've also been looking, going around to hotels to find out if she's checked in, but there's nothing going, like, I'm not hearing anything. And she says, Luke, where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? She went with you on this yacht. And now you're telling me you don't know where she is. You're checking. Did she get off the yacht? Did she get off the yacht? And he's like, well, I don't know. We were all so drunk. I don't quite remember. As she's trying to ask him more questions, Luke cuts her off. Look, Mrs. D, I'm so sorry. I've really got to go. But if Cindy hears from you, if you hear from Cindy, sorry, please let her know that I'm looking for her. And if I hear from her, I'll be sure to call you immediately. And he drops the phone. As soon as he drops the phone, Mrs. Dlamini lets out this wail. She starts screaming and crying. She is crying inconsolably. Like, she is crying. You know that cry that you are making a noise and you cannot help you. It is from the depths of your soul, your gut. You cannot think. There is a pain inside of you. And her husband comes rushing down the stairs and he's like, what's going on? What's going on? And she cannot even speak. She cannot speak. She's crying so hard she cannot speak. And he says, is it Cindy? What's going on? And she nods her head and he says, what happened? What has happened? And she eventually manages to get some words out. And she says, I called Luke and he says that he doesn't know where Cindy is. And I think he's hiding something from me. Mr. Dlamini immediately picks up the phone and calls Luke back. And the person on the other end is like, hello. And he's like, Luke, this is Mr. Dlamini, Cindy's father. Where's my daughter? Can I please speak to her? And the gentleman on the other line says, hi, this is Mr. Pierre. I'm Luke's attorney. My client informed your wife that he hasn't heard or seen Cindy. And if we're going to be quite frank, look, your daughter is a grown-up and perhaps, you know, after the fight they had, she got off the yacht and she's probably extended her vacation and she's with another gentleman. There were a lot of eligible bachelors on that yacht ride. Let's just give it a few days and see if, you know, she shows up. And Mr. Dlamini stops him there and says, I don't know what you're trying to insinuate about my daughter, but I know her. And there's no way she's extended any vacation, especially not having informed her mother and I. So I need to know where my daughter is. Can you please put Luke on the phone? And now Mr. Pierre's tone gets a lot more abrasive and harsh. Sir, please do not harass my client. He's told you he does not know where your daughter is. As soon as he hears from Cindy, I will make sure that he calls you immediately, but do not harass him. And he drops the phone. Now it's starting to occur to him. It's starting to dawn on him that there is something seriously wrong. And he's looking at his wife and his wife is looking at him while she's crying and in visible pain. At this point, Sbusiso comes downstairs. Now, Sbusiso is Cindy's brother. So he comes downstairs and he's, you know, looking, Sfiso, sorry. Sfiso is Cindy's brother. So he comes downstairs and he's looking at his parents like, what's going on? And the dad explains a bit to him that, look, there's something not quite right. We don't know where your sister is. And Sfiso is immediately like, we need to go. We need to go to Saint-Tropez. There's no other way. We need to fly out to France. And the dad says to him, get on your laptop and find some tickets. I need to go and make some phone calls. And the dad tells his wife it's going to be okay. He rushes to his office. He closes the door and he's here on the phone making phone calls, calling his contacts in France, seeing what can happen. He is just as panicked, but he cannot show his wife. Sfiso is on his laptop frantically looking for flights, and he's also at the same time saying, Mama, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay, don't worry. And he's looking for flights. At this point, Mrs. Dlamini is sitting there praying, but praying aggressively. Have you guys ever been in a situation where your gut, your spirit is so uneasy and the only thing you know to do is pray? There's literally nothing else you can do but pray. That's where Mrs. Dlamini's at. That's where she's at. And now she's praying and praying. Going through everything on the phone, on the laptop, this, that, and the other, finds tickets, and the next day they fly out to France. As soon as they land in France at their hotel, Mrs. Dlamini's brother, Thabo, is there waiting for them. Now, let me give you guys a little bit of something about Thabo. Thabo is a very colorful businessman. He has acquired his riches from business, but he hasn't exactly, colored within the lines. He hasn't exactly followed the rules, so to speak. He's got a very thuggish demeanor about him. He gets things done. He collects those coins, but by meeting him, okay, well, this is not quite adding up, but he's got the money, so hey. He meets them at the hotel, and as soon as he sees his sister, he's holding her. They make their way to the room, and he is holding her. Now, when Mr. Dlamini, the previous day, went into his office, Thabo was one of the first people he called. He knows his brother-in-law. He knows Thabo. So he called him. So of course, when they arrived in France, he was there. So they get to the room and he's holding her. Spusiso is in his own room. He's holding, Sfiso, is in his own room. Yes, it's just the three of them, Mr. Dlamini, Mrs. Dlamini, and Thabo in the room. And he's holding his sister and he's like, you need to take a seat. And she takes a seat and he says to her, this is not going to be easy for me to say. And I don't know how else, so I'm just going to come out with it. I called around, I spoke to a couple of people. I've done an investigation on this Dupont family. And to cut a long story short, this friendly, welcoming family is nothing but a facade. Money, riches, wealth, lavish lifestyle, they're all about that. But there's more to them. He goes on to tell them that he reached out to a senior detective, and this senior detective has informed him that the brothers, John and Paul, who are Luke's older brothers, between the two of them, have about 11 pending cases of sex trafficking. And that's when Mrs. Dlamini loses it. And he's like, that family have spent a lot of time covering up what their sons get up to. A couple of years ago, there was a young woman by the name of Amber Miles who managed to escape, and she came forward to report the family and report that she had been, they had tried, Paul, their oldest son, had tried to sex traffic her, and she managed to escape. There was an investigation launched and Amber disappeared, and so did the case. And now she's sitting there and she's looking at her brother like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And Mr. Dlamini is like, what else? And he says, look, I had somebody pull up the footage from the dock that day, and yeah, we saw the footage, and uSindi definitely got on that yacht. She's there in the footage, but she did not disembark. She did not get off. There's no footage of her. And she's just like, so what does that mean? Mrs. Dlamini is asking, what does that mean? What does that mean? And he says, we had, I don't believe that they've hurt her. I don't believe that they've killed her or anything like that. We managed to speak to the cleaning staff who cleans the yachts in that specific area. It's an agency, so they were easy to locate. And they said there was nothing untoward on that yacht. There was no disturbances. There was nothing out of the ordinary. So I don't believe they've harmed her. I do, however, think something has happened and we just need to figure out what that thing is. While he's explaining this to his sister, Sfiso, there's a knock on the door. They open and it's Sfiso. Sfiso greets his uncle. Thabo's holding him and, you know, saying to him everything's going to be okay. And Sfiso gets right into it. He's got his laptop in his hand. And he says, I found something. And they ask him, like, what's going on? And he starts showing them pictures that people who had been on the yacht were taking. And he shows them a couple of pictures and then he directs them to a particular picture. Now, in this picture, you see the Dupont's yacht and where all their guests are. And then you see another super yacht not too far from it. And there is a boat that is being sent between the different yachts. Now, there's a series of pictures, so you get to see what's going on. That series of pictures tells a very dark story. And all they can see going on in these pictures is between the two boats, there are big brown boxes being transported, and these boxes are written champagne, cigars. So as far as the guests are concerned, on this yacht for the all-white, on the super yacht for this all-white party, is that this is the Dupont family. They are so up there. They're so elite. They've had somebody come and bring them some more champagne and more cigars for their guests. So nobody's thinking there's anything weird happening here. Sfiso's immediate thought is, what if uSindi was put in one of those boxes? That's the only explanation. Immediately when Thabo sees all of this, it clicks to him. That's it. That's how she was moved off the yacht. If there were no disturbances, if there was no trace of blood or anything broken or no, she had to have been placed in one of these boxes. So he gets on the phone and he starts making calls. He taps uSfiso on the shoulder like, well done, well done. Now he's on the phone calling around frantically. We're back on the yacht. uSindi wakes up and she is experiencing an all too familiar feeling. She's feeling fuzzy, groggy, sick, and she has this thumping headache. And when she turns over, Nicole is laying right next to her. And she starts shaking Nicole. And she's saying, wake up, wake up, wake up. Eventually, Nicole wakes up and she's like, Nicole, we're in another yacht. Now, Cindy can see that. The yacht she went to bed in is not the yacht she's woken up in. The room she went to sleep in is not the same room she's waking up in. And so the only explanation she has is, we're in a different yacht. What's going on? Nicole calmly rolls over and she says, yeah, I know, we were transported at some point. We're in Monaco now. And she's like, what? When? How? What happened? And she's like, I know, just as much as you do, I was also drugged. The guards. I overheard the guards talking. At this point, uSindi is petrified. She's like, Nicole, how can you be this calm about it? How can you be this calm? We've been taken again. We've been moved again. And Nicole's like, Cindy, do you realize when I was taken? Do you know how long this has been happening to me? This is just what it is. This is what it is for me. And Cindy is like, this is not what it is, Nicole. You have to fight. While they're going back and forth, a guard walks in and says, you guys need to take a shower. the host wants to meet you. And so they jump in the shower, they start getting cleaned up. While they're in the shower, there's a knock on the door. They come out into the room, and there's a lady standing there. And she says, welcome aboard the Mona yacht. Mr. Marino would love to meet you ladies. Here's some dresses. As soon as you get ready, please come up. And so they get ready, dressed, and they go up. They're seated there, and immediately they see this old Italian man sitting there, and they notice he's got this very charming, charismatic, flamboyant type of personality. He's loud. He's got so much. He's just got so much life in his personality, and he's on the phone. So they wait for him to stop speaking, and he tells them to sit down, and so they do. He offers them something to drink. They have something to drink, and they are just sitting there. Eventually, a few more women come and join them. Now, remember, on a super yacht, there are rooms everywhere. This is a house on the sea, okay? So you can have a few families on this yacht. And so more women come and join them, and Mr. Marino's sitting there, and he's loving the attention, and he's loving this, this whole vibe. He's surrounded by a whole bunch of beautiful women. He's drinking. He's popping some prescription pills. He's doing the most. Now, Cindy is watching all of this. She's observing it. She's observing it very carefully. And the first thing she picks up is some way, somehow, I have to get my hands on that phone. I need to get my hands on that phone. And she's looking at Nicole, and Nicole's looking at her. As time goes on, it clicks to Cindy, you've got to do something. You can't just sit here and hope that phone is going to land in your lap. Do something. So as soon as Cindy gets a bit more liquor in her system, she gets up and she starts dancing and being very seductive and very suggestive. And this immediately catches Mr. Marino's attention, and he's loving Cindy. He's looking at her. He's mesmerized by her body. He's mesmerized by her skin tone. He is staring, and she's loving it. She's loving it because what she wants for to happen is happening. And so she's taking in all that attention. She's using it to her advantage. Eventually, Mr. Marino, now Nicole picks up on what Cindy's doing. And so she kind of sits there and she's encouraging it. And eventually, Mr. Marino says to Cindy, come, let's go to the room. And Cindy's like, okay. And she picks up the bottle of whiskey he's been drinking, his cigars, and his phone. And she's like, let's go. And Mr. Marino says, no, put the phone down. I don't want to be disturbed. Just bring the cigars and alcohol. And as she turns back to put the phone down, you can see the defeat and the pain on her face. Now, Nicole knows what's going on. And she says, would you mind if I join you? Now, she wants to take this pressure off Cindy. She doesn't want to leave Cindy alone. Cindy is not only young, but she's petrified, guys. Something like this has never happened. So Nicole's like, can I join you? And Mr. Marino says, yes, why not? And so they disappear for a couple of hours. Eventually, they come back out and they start drinking and having some food, this, that, and the other. Now, Cindy's defeated. And Nicole keeps on saying to her, don't worry, you're going to get that phone. We just need to figure it out, but you'll get that phone. Just don't worry. Now look at how the roles have changed. Nicole is kicking into that we need to fight when she sees Cindy is losing hope and she's deflated, and she's like, we'll get our hands on that phone. Do not worry. Something inside of Cindy says, you cannot give up, baby girl. You better keep on fighting. If you allow these people to get away with it, you'll wake up and be somewhere else. And before you know it, you'll be lost in this world forever. And so she gets back into that. And now she's like, I need to get my hands on that phone. But however this goes down, I need the distraction. So she gets up again and she starts drinking and she starts dancing and she starts, acting sexual and very suggestive. And Mr. Marino is in the mood, honey. He's had some pills so he can go all night long. He tells the other ladies who are seated there, stand up and join her, stand up and join Cindy. And so they do. They start drinking and dancing on each other and just really doing the most to please this man. While they're doing that, Nicole's frantically trying to think of a way to grab or to distract Mr. Marino. So she's looking around and she's trying to figure out, how am I going to do this? What's going to happen? She sees a piece of glass from a champagne glass that broke. And she's like, what can I do? What can I do? Now, Cindy starts looking at Nicole while she's dancing with these other ladies. Nicole holds this piece of glass to her thigh and Cindy's looking at her like, don't. Nicole doesn't hesitate. She slashes her thigh and there's blood. She then violently throws herself towards the woman as if she slipped and fell. She falls to the ground and there's blood and they're all panicking and they're trying to help. All the ladies are now trying to help her. And Mr. Marino sees what's going on and he says, he calls the guards immediately and he says, come and clean this up and come take her away. And while all of this is happening, Cindy manages to slip towards Mr. Marino's phone while this commotion is happening and she dials her mother's number. She doesn't pick the phone up, she dials it and she leaves it exactly where it is. She notices that it says connected. And there she is trying to figure out, what do I say? How do I say? I can't pick up the phone and I speak to her mom. So as the speak to her mom. So while the security are taking, the guards are taking Nicole to a room and trying to clean up, Cindy very quickly says, guys, calm down, relax. It was just an accident. Let's keep drinking. Let's have fun. We're in Monaco. Like, hello. Like, she's trying to get them back in that spirit. She's like, we're in Monaco. Let's go. Let's have fun. Let's just keep drinking. Bartender, please get us some more shots. Let's do this. And Mr. Marino loves her energy. He loves Cindy's energy. He's immediately drawn back to her and he starts moving towards her and dancing all up on her. And he says to her, Cindy, you are one hell of a woman and I'm going to miss you. And Cindy's saying to him, this doesn't have to end. Let's stay here in Monaco and let's live our best lives. And he's laughing and he's holding her and he's kissing her. Now, while all of this is happening, Mrs. Dlamini is listening to all of it. At this point, she turns the phone onto speaker so that her husband, Utabo, her brother, and the son can hear because they're all in the room. Now she can hear Cindy talking. They can all hear Cindy talking. And Cindy's saying, let's just make this last. Let's make this last. We're in Monaco. And Cindy's finding any way to repeat that they're in Monaco and they're on the super yacht and they're having this amazing time. Whatever she can think to say that won't be too suspicious, but will give them enough information. She's saying it. Eventually, the bartender comes with trays on each hand with shots. And Cindy screams, the shots are here. Now everybody turns and looks at the bartender. Mr. Marino's also looking at the bartender saying, yes, let's get some shots. As soon as everybody turns away, Cindy disconnects the call. Now Mr. Marino is all over her. He's back to Cindy. His attention on Cindy. He wants her. She's doing all the right things, doing all the right things, saying all the right things. He wants Cindy. So he disappears in a room with her. Now Cindy knows this time there is no Nicole to protect her or to join her. So whatever she does, she has to do it by herself tonight. So she goes into that room with him and they leave the rest of the ladies there. Now we're back in France, in this hotel where Cindy's parents are her brother and her uncle. Immediately after that phone call drops, Thabo is like, let's go to Mr. Dlamini. He's on the phone finding out where they can get a private plane. We need to charter a plane. We need to get up out of here. We need to fly out to Monaco. We need to go and find my niece. And so that's what he does. But he insists that Sfiso and Mrs. Dlamini stay there. He's like, for safety reasons, you guys need to stay here. And you do not open the door for anybody. And you don't leave until we call you, until you hear from us. And so they do. They stay there. They wait for the phone call and they don't move. They've been told, don't move. And so, they stay in that hotel room. Mr. Dlamini and Thabo are racing towards this airport. They get there, they board the flight. Now, while they're racing there, he's on the phone making all sorts of phone calls. They board this flight, they eventually arrive in Monaco, and they are escorted to the harbor, and now they're all boarding a super yacht themselves. Now the reason why the police are not getting into some, you know, what do they call them, these boats that the reason they're getting into a super yacht themselves is because they have to blend in. There's no ways these Coast Guard patrolling boats they can't get in that. They cannot. There's no ways. People would be alarmed. And so they get into a super yacht, and now they're making their way. And the guards have managed to locate where these yachts are, and they've managed to locate the super yacht. There's not many of them out there at this point. In the evening. And so while they're in the yacht, the police are saying, listen, when we get there, you do not get out of this yacht. You do not get out of this yacht. You allow us to do what we need to do. You guys stay in here. We will go and fetch Cindy. Am I clear? And they're both looking at him. Thabo is just looking at him. Mr. Dlamini says, we're clear. They arrive. They eventually locate the yacht. They get into a small boat, and they manage to make their way to the yacht and climb aboard. Now the police are taking down the security guards. Remember, Mr. Marino is in the room enjoying Cindy. So they managed to take down the security guards. Thabo is like, hells to the no. He is not staying in that yacht, not while his niece is there. He jumps out and he gets onto that yacht with them, and now he's moving behind the police. There's nothing they can do. They're already on the yacht, so he's moving behind them. They're taking down the security. They're doing all they need to do. Next thing, Thabo hears them screaming, put your hands up where I can see them. And he realizes that has to be the room where the person, Mr. Marino, is. He doesn't know who the man is. He just knows whoever it is that has these ladies on the yacht, that has to be him. And so he pushes his way to the front, and he sees Mr. Marino and Cindy in bed together, naked, laying there. He loses his mind. He jumps on Mr. Marino and starts beating him. Remember I told you Uba Thabo is thuggish. He is beating this man, beating him. Eventually the police drag him off, and Cindy gets up and she covers her body and she's crying. She's crying and crying and crying. He holds his knees and they're dragging Mr. Marino out of there. Eventually, Mr. Dlamini walks into the room and he sees his daughter, and she runs to him and she's holding him and she's crying. Thabo's looking at this whole thing and he cannot believe it. He wants more. He wants to go and deal with Mr. Marino some more. So he runs and he's tearing around corners trying to follow the police to get his hands on Mr. Marino, and they stop him. Eventually, fast forward, Mr. Dlamini, Thabo, and Cindy make their way to France where her mother and brother are. They reunite and there's tears and there's a lot of like, oh my gosh, there's just a lot of, there's joy, but there's a lot of pain and tears. And Mrs. Dlamini doesn't even want to hear what has happened just yet. She just wants to hold and embrace her daughter and let her know that it's all going to be okay. After the first 2 nights, they say, guys, we're going back. We need to go back to SA. Mr. Dlamini, we need to go back to SA. That's it. We are going back home. And while they were still in France, they had protection. They had security. Thabo made sure of it. And he says, we need to go back to SA. And Cindy says, no, I have to do something before I go. I'm going back to Switzerland and I need to do something. And they're like, Cindy, what is going on? And she's like, just trust me. A week later, school has opened. Med school has opened up again. University has opened. And the med students are back. And Luke walks into that space like he does every other time, like the rich, invincible, spoiled child of a billionaire is. He walks in with so much confidence and so much. People like Luke, you guys. He is that person who his family is rich, People know his family. They know the family's rich. They gravitate towards him. They want to be a part of that lifestyle. They want to be a part of that vibe. And so when he walks back in, he's got all that attention. Girls want him. Guys want to be his friend. He is the man. He is the 1, 2, and 3. So he attends his lecture and he's there sitting in that room, in the classroom, laughing with other students, cracking jokes, talking to the lecturer, doing what Luke does. Now, the lecture starts and the lecturer starts lecturing. And she's letting them know, welcome back to this semester. So we're going to be starting with this. So please, can you open your books on this page and let's start. As the class starts and everybody is there reading and discussing and, the lecturer is talking, Usindi walks in the classroom. She walks in, she greets the lecturer and apologizes for being late. And then she makes her way to the seat that's available. And the whole time she's walking towards that seat that's available, she's got her eye on Luke. She pulls the seat out, she takes a seat, and she looks at Luke like, got you.